A group of vegan activists who disrupted the Queen's Jubilee have staged a protest by pouring milk on the floor of Harrods. And Animal Rebellion, a group of animal rights activists linked to Extinction Rebellion. We should think of our own organisation and call it as something rebellion. Okay. Nutters Rebellion. We go around seeking out people like this. Dan Kidby is the co-founder. Good evening, Dan. Tell me, first of all, what throwing milk on the floor of stores is actually going to do.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, James and Ash. It's a pleasure to be here talking about these crucial issues.
It won't be at the end, but carry on.
Well, I mean, so first of all, what we're doing is we're calling for governments to support farmers to transition to a plant-based food system. And through that process, we can rewild land. And this is really crucial because it enables us to draw down carbon dioxide and also restore wildlife. Thus bringing back, you know, the hedgehogs, the foxes, the badgers that are dying in this country en masse. So what we're doing is by staging these protests, we seek to create this conversation, which is so crucial and so urgent at this time, and to get government to act on this crisis.
Let me ask you again, slowly, how is spilling milk on the floor of a store actually going to achieve this? Because you're making yourself out to look like a prize pillock.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're in a crisis right now. We're in a climate crisis and a mass extinction crisis, and this is the key solution to the crisis. We're not in a mass extinction
crisis unless we actually sort the Russians out.
So it's not about animal welfare, this is nothing to do with animal welfare?
Well, we do believe in animal welfare, but also we're in a climate crisis right now, and we need urgent action. And what the science is saying is that the key solution...
What is your science training, by the way, Dan? What science training... Yeah, you've already said that. What science training have you had to know about this?
Well, as co-founder of Animal Rebellion, I do actually get to speak to a lot of scientists on this issue. And what is very clear is that, you know, like recently there was Oxford University published a study which said that if we were to transition our food system, we can free up 76% of global farmland. Now, what that means, it's the size of China, Australia, Europe, and United States combined. That land can be freed up to enable the forests to come back. And this is so important.
If you interrupt me and keep talking like this, I'm just going to get on with the rest of the show, because people like you really peeve me. You look, you know, you've got really starey eyes which worry me. You go doing things like gluing yourselves to stuff. You tell people what they should eat and what they shouldn't eat. And the majority of people in this country just think you're a prize pillock. I mean, why on earth do you think, as I asked you before, throwing milk on the floor of a supermarket, telling people what they should eat, is actually going to make them comply? Because what you're doing, I'm quite glad to say, is turning people off any sort of green agenda at all.
Well, actually, the majority of the British public are seriously concerned about the climate crisis.
No, they're not.
We know that. The polling's coming, and they are seriously concerned. And they're calling
but they won't give up their cheese and their milk.
No, they won't give up their cheese and their milk and their bacon. No, they won't give it up at all.
Well, I mean, this is the beautiful thing about what we're proposing. We're not actually asking people to give up these things, because we have these amazing new technologies coming through, like precision fermentation, where we can actually produce milk and we can produce cheese without
good enough, I don't mind.
And it's the exact same.
We pioneered this. Do you remember a few years ago, James? We thought you could genetically engineer meat. Do you remember we talked about this, James, a few years ago?
What are you going to do with all the cows, mate?
What are we going to do with all the cows?
Because apparently you say you want to get rid of the dairy industry. What are you going to do with the people who work in it? What are you going to do with the animals? Are you just going to have them killed off? Can we not eat them when they get them killed?
Well, it's worth saying that the animal farming and fishing industry is collectively responsible for about 3 trillion deaths per year. So like that's a huge amount.
You know, people like you talk rubbish.
Right? No, you can look up these numbers.
What are you going to do for the world?
The United Nations have put these numbers out, right? This is very clear.
Put them out. It doesn't seem to get
what we're looking at is reducing that suffering, and in the process,
shoving milk on the floor.
You made a big mess. And you occupied Waitrose's cheese room. You occupied Waitrose's cheese room.
Yeah, that's right. We did.
What for? I mean, what? Why?
You see, listen, Ash, shush a minute. What I'm calling for, you shush too. What I'm calling for is when you do this again, the police to come round, get you round the neck, sling you in a van, take you away, throw you in a cell and leave you there. I don't understand why our bloody police force are behaving like cretinous morons when people like you start using whatever you think rights you have to do this, to use criminal damage. And I'm getting sick of it. And I actually think I speak for a lot more people in this country than you.
Well, I mean, I understand
that. So if you carry on doing this...
What's it like in the cheese room?
There is going to be trouble.
What's it like in the cheese room?
Well, what I'll just say is I'll respond to
We'd all like to know that.
Because, I mean, like, it's a serious question, right? It's like, yeah, we are breaking the law, and we will continue to break the law, even if the police do step up their you know...
Well, if they don't step up, people will. You know that. If the police don't start stepping up...
in this country,
use the ballot box. That's what the ballot box is for.
Well, the most democratic institution in this country is the jury, right? I'm sure you'd agree with that. It's 12 people in a room.
We'll get a judicial review.
No, actually, I don't.
And climate protesters
hang on. I don't agree with that.
Not guilty, because they recognise we're in a
I don't agree with it.
Right? And what we know... I
don't agree with it at all. I think juries are a waste of space.
You can whip up a jury. Look at what happened with that statue in Bristol. They let them off.
So you don't like jury, trial by jury?
Well, there needs bigger juries.
Not the way we choose them at the moment, no, because you've got some person there could be as thick as people like you, and who says, oh, yeah, oh, no, I don't agree with that. And when the law says one thing, you get some sort of member of the public changes their mind, and some criminal gets let off. We've seen it over and over and over again. So, no, I'm not a big fan of jury trials, to be honest.
Well, I think what it shows is that the democratic will of the people is in support of the actions that climate protesters are taking regularly, right? If we're continually being found not guilty for our actions because we're calling for science-backed solutions, like the transition to a plant-based food system, supporting farmers who are in a really
ridiculous thing you say. Because science changes. Every couple of minutes, a new science comes along. And if you were to do everything you want to do now, it doesn't mean you're going to change the climate to a more livable way. The climate has and will always change. And eventually, whatever anybody does, humans probably won't be able to live on this planet. What we should be doing is cleaning up the oceans, yes. Cleaning up everything, yes. And what we ought to be doing is building houses that can actually stand new climate conditions like they have in other parts of the world. That's what we ought to be doing. Trying to change everything, trying to, you know, make people have to spend money on getting electric cars. By the way, electric cars are going to be more polluting than anything else.
Are, yeah.
You know, this is just a ridiculous,
they're coal-powered, really, because the coal makes the electricity.
The more you guys behave in this moronic way in using criminal damage, the worse it's going to get for you. Trust me, I'm being nice now. If you carry on doing this, you are going to turn everybody against what you want to achieve. Everybody.
Well, I think it's beautiful what you're saying is that we do agree on so much. Like, you know, cleaning up the oceans is exactly what we want, right? Do you know what the biggest cause of pollution is in the oceans? It's discarded fishing gear, right? That's the biggest source of plastic in the oceans. And we're headed towards fishless oceans by 2048 if we continue on fishing in the way that we are. So by working towards this transition...
Why don't you go to... Listen, here's an idea.
I want an ocean with fish in them, right? I want forests with life flourishing. And that is what we're calling for. It's a great thing that's going to benefit all of us, right? We all win.
It's not going to happen. People don't agree with you. People don't agree with you, so it's not going to happen. But what you could do is pop over to France and demonstrate against the French fishermen, and I'd like to see them kicked out of our waters anyway.
Well, I mean, what I say is that, like, people do agree with us. There is a rising, like, you know, oat milk, like the head of Dairy UK, right? The head of Dairy UK said that we're facing a demographic time bomb because all of the young people in this country are moving off of dairy. Right, and he said the industry is headed towards collapse.
They'll get osteoporosis. That'll get osteoporosis will be on the rise if that happens.
Yeah, look, the majority of young people in this country are addicted to Love Island.
There are people.
It affects women. It affects women more, actually. Yeah.
Look, I mean, it's just go and read. Just go and read the science and the nutritional guidance, and it's just not true what you're saying about osteoporosis. People
the science on nutrition. The science on nutrition has changed so much in the last 5 years. It's amazing. You know, there was, you should eat 5 a day, 10 a day, whatever. And now they've realized it really doesn't make any difference. It's down to your own metabolism. What are you last thought? I've got to go. I've got 1 minute.
Yeah.
Are you concerned about a nuclear war or not?
I mean, of course, I'm concerned about a nuclear war because, you know, the situation is really tough with Russia. And we've got to bear in mind is that these wars are going to continue unless we sort out the climate crisis. The MOD, the Ministry of Defence, have predicted more wars unless if we resolve this crisis. So we need the governments to act. So, of course, we need to deal with the problems in the here and now.
Pop over to Russia and do some demonstrating over there and call in China as well.
Then you'll see milk on the floor.
Dan, for the moment, thank you very much indeed. I must congratulate you for coming on and staying on to the end of the show as well.
Congratulations.
And actually, if you could just stop interrupting a little bit. When I'm getting a countdown into the news, it's so annoying. Now, you won't be on the programme
10 seconds
in an hour if you don't have your hair.
I'm thinking about it.